Hi, today we're going to talk about marketing your apps. Marketing is very different from advertising. When you advertise your app, you pay someone to show ads and then hope that users will see them, tap or click on them, and then go on to download your app or game. Marketing, in contrast, tends to be all the things that you can do without spending any money. And I'm going to presume, for the purpose of this lecture, that most of you are not in a position to spend money to promote your apps or games. So we're going to discuss all the methods that don't cost money that you can use to get more downloads for your app or game. Optimizing your App Store presence is the first category of strategies we are going to explore. There are two goals in these optimizations. The first is to show up more often when users search for apps on the App Store. The second is to make it more likely that users will download your app once they see it on the App Store. The first three optimizations listed relate to search optimization. These are the title, the keywords, and the description of your app. The title of your app gets indexed by the App Store search engine, meaning if users search for terms that are present in your title, your app is more likely to show up. So you should treat the title like an opportunity to use keywords that are relevant to your app to make it more likely to show up when users are looking for things similar to your app. To take an example from the front page of the App Store today, there is a shopping app called Jet. But the title on the App Store is not Jet. It is Jet, Online Shopping, Browse and Compare Prices. It gives a little bit more information about the app, but most importantly, makes it so that if you search for online shopping or compare prices or any combination of those terms, Jet is likely to show up in the search results. And that's unbelievably important for driving downloads. Next up, we have keywords. When you submit your app to the App Store, Apple lets you enter up to 100 characters of words that you separate by commas that will be used to match against search terms. Users can't see these keywords, but when they search for terms that match these keywords, your app is likely to show up. There is a whole strategy around keywords. If you pick a keyword that is common, then a bunch of popular apps will appear before yours when people search for it. If you pick a keyword that is uncommon, well, no one's going to be searching for that word, and so even if your app is the first result, very few people might actually see it. The solution is to find keywords that are a mix of popular in that users search them a lot, but unpopular in that not many apps use that keyword, so that you can show up as the top app or one of the top apps for that search term. It's hard to guess what these words are, which is why there's a variety of tools, one of which that we've used called Sensor Tower, that you can subscribe to and use to optimize your keywords. Next up, we have the description, which actually serves two purposes. First, it is matched against search terms, but less strongly than title or keywords. But also, it is something that can convince users to download your app, because the first three lines of the description are visible to a user. So make sure those first three lines are really punchy, really attention-grabbing, really catchy, brag about progress or rewards you've gotten, and make sure that it summarizes in a way that tells the user they have to download it now, what is going on inside of your app. And finally, your screenshots. There's a wonderful website called launchkit.io that provides a drag-and-drop tool you can use to design beautiful App Store screenshots. We highly recommend you use them. The more professional your app comes across and the more beautiful your screenshots are, the more likely users are to download your app once they actually see it on the App Store. But we left out one of the most important elements of App Store presence, your app's icon. If you think of the App Store as a physical store, you realize that even if your app shows up in search results, users can see it in a list of other apps, well, if it doesn't have a catchy look, it simply won't stand out. As an interesting side note, this photo was taken by Andreas Gursky and is the most expensive photograph in the world. It was sold at auction in 2007 for over $3 million. Back to app icons, though, let's take a look at some trends in design. Things are going simpler because it makes it easier for them to stand out. When there is a lot of visual clutter, like in an actual store shelf or on the actual App Store, having a bold, simple design has been shown to attract users' attention and increase the likelihood that they notice your product. App icons that are busy with lots of visual elements or text, as well as app icons that use the old-school gloss effect, are out of style and will not stand out on the App Store. In contrast, App icons that have simple, clean gradients and a clear image in the center tend to do well in the App Store. It is also the most professional look at the moment. Users associate it with quality, and that's what you want to project, especially as an individual developer. If you are in the games track, this advice will work for you too. But if you want to be more conventional, the trend on the App Store is for game icons to have a face in them. If you go to the top charts and look at all the games, even Geometry Wars has a face in the icon. Now for the fun part, dealing with the press. For the purposes of this lecture, I'm going to use the word press to refer to both the standard tech press, app review press, but also things like blogs and even YouTube reviewers, because the principles here are the same. The press has a set of motivations that when I was in your shoes, I got totally wrong. I thought that app review websites were about giving an objective, good score to apps. I thought game review blogs were about discovering the best games and telling users about them. I thought that the tech press was about going out and finding the coolest companies to write about and then writing articles about them. All of that is wrong. All the things I mentioned may be what these websites look like from the outside. But when you dig into their process where they decide what they're going to write about or what they're not going to write about, you realize that what they care about above all else is page views, the number of people actually visiting their website. And so when you want to get them to cover you, you cannot try to convince them that you are good because you think that their mission is to review good apps or find good companies or find good games. You can only convince them to cover you if you can convince them that you will bring them page views. Usually, good titles and good stories are what get you clicks and page views. So that's what you have to be pitching. What is the title of the article about you that's going to get people to click on it? What is the story that can be told in that article that will get people to read it and share it? The world expert on creating titles that people want to click on is BuzzFeed. No matter how much you may like them or hate them, you should go take a look at them and get some inspiration from what they do, because they are really good at getting internet users to click on their links. And that is what you want to help whoever is going to write about you do. Think deeply about what the best story you can tell about how your app was made or how it's doing that will get people engaged and sharing an article. This isn't only about what the story is, but also who is writing the story. In particular, if you're pitching to your school or to your local city's press or newspaper, a story simply about you is more exciting than it would be on TechCrunch. And when I'm saying help the press write an article about you that will get them a lot of views, I literally mean do as much of the work for them as possible. What you're going to send them is called a press kit. A press kit includes your app icon, screenshots, a biography about you, but also includes a press release, which is basically an article that you are going to write about yourself. As weird as it sounds, you are going to identify what you think is the best story to tell about your app, and you are going to write that story as if it was a news article, quoting yourself inside the article, and you're going to send that to the press. You'll be shocked at how many of them, if they choose to cover you, will simply copy-paste out of the article that you already wrote for them, which was mind-blowing for me to discover because I thought that the press was actually going to come talk to me about my app or game. Turns out, no, they're going to copy the article that I wrote. They're going to copy the quotes that I wrote for myself. And I can tell you it's going to be really weird to write a quote for yourself. But you have to do it, and it will show up in articles, as unbelievable as that sounds. Take a moment to pause the video and look at a wonderful example. Marble Drop was developed by 2 MIT students who took a class there that uses our Summer Academy curriculum. They took this lecture very seriously, went ahead and made themselves a social media presence, a beautiful website, and at the bottom of the website, if you scroll down, you'll see a link to download their press kit. I want you all to download it, open it up, and check out what's inside. You'll find that there's an article where they've written quotes for themselves and identified what they think is the coolest story to tell about their app. Go and check it out now. I would like to wrap up by discussing some strategies for reaching out to the press. Each and every one of you has a story to tell. So step 1 is to craft that story and actually reach out. As silly as it sounds, most people don't get press because most people never reach out, and showing up is half the battle. You do have to keep in mind that most people are really bad at email, and many people are very busy. So if you don't hear back, Unless someone has explicitly told you never email me again, you should reach out again, and again, and again. Polite persistence is very important. As long as the message feels personalized, you use the real name, you didn't use a mass email, and it sounds like you are genuinely trying to get in touch, people are very forgiving of multiple attempts to reach out. It is not unusual for it to take 5 or more emails before you ever hear back from someone. When it comes to deciding who to reach out to, we already discussed how the local press is a good option. They're more likely to write about you, and once they have, you show up in Google search results, and when other people look you up, it makes you seem more legit, and that's great. You should avoid paid review sites. You'll find that a shocking number of app and game review websites, even reputable ones, when you try and reach out to get your app reviewed, they will ask you for money, and if you don't pay, they won't do it. You should avoid these. A good strategy is to figure out what niche your app or game targets, and then target influencers in that niche. If you are making an app for vegans, figure out who the most popular vegan YouTube personality is who talks about vegan apps and reach out to them. If you're making a game to highlight a certain social issue, then reach out to people who you know care about that social issue and like to write about it. And finally, make sure that you sell your story more than you sell your app. When you target different people, you might need to tell different stories. For the local press, they might be excited to see a headline that says local student or local teen or local developer builds amazing app or popular app, whereas the general press is going to be more interested in a story that appeals to the general population, different headline, different content. So you might end up making more than one press kit to send to more than one type of publication. Regardless, I want to remind you that yes, the press will copy out of your press kit if you do a good job at crafting it. And I'm repeating it again because no one believes me when I say it the first time. It sounds so ridiculous, but it is so true. And if you want evidence for this, go online and search for sample press releases, and you'll find that the internet is full of articles that were written by the developers themselves. I hope this has given you some guidance on how to optimize your presence on the App Store and how to target the press to get downloads, all without spending money. Thanks.